Hello, and welcome to the Bamboo Lab podcast with your host, peak performance coach, Brian Bosley. Are you stuck on the hamster wheel of life, spinning and spinning, but not really moving forward? Are you ready to jump off and soar? Are you finally ready to sculpt your life? If so, you've landed in the right place. This podcast is created and broadcast just for you. All of you strivers, thrivers, and survivors out there. If you'd like to learn more about Brian and the Bamboo Lab, feel free to reach out to explore your true peak level at www.bamboolab3.com.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Bamboo Lab podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian. Today, we have an amazing guest on that we got to connect with each other over the past few weeks. We had an amazing conversation last week, and I'm so excited to introduce him to our Bamboo Pack. So we have Ken Miller on today. I'm just going to really brief it. Ivy League graduate, homeless addict, now one of the more successful people in his realm as a consultant, coach, keynote speaker, mentor. So my new friend, Ken, welcome to the Bamboo Lab podcast.
Thank you, Brian. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, just start off by telling everybody how many opportunities or how many times you get asked to be on a podcast, because it's a number that kind of staggered me when you told me. How many do you do a week or a month?
I do 10 to 12.
That's a lot of podcasts. So you're probably the most experienced podcast guest I've had in 150 some episodes. I've got to say.
I love it.
You know, I've only done maybe 10 myself. Like I've been a guest on, and that's something I always say, I got to do more of, but so you're kind of an inspiration for that. So, you know, we've had some really good conversations last week. Then we got to talk quite a few minutes before we even started recording today. So I've researched you, Ken. I've learned a lot about you, but can you please share with us a little bit more about yourself? Maybe your childhood, where you're from, your family, who or what inspired you growing up? I'll just let you run with that.
Sure. So let's just start off with the facts, and everything else is going to be an interpretation or an opinion. The facts are I was born in 1962. I'm 62 years old. I am an African-American man of mixed heritage. My mother was a white teenage runaway prostitute, and my father was a pimp and drug dealer. Facts. Number two, I was put up for adoption at birth, coming from a mixed parentage at that time from a teenage girl. And I ended up doing 6 years in foster care. After I was adopted at age 7, I was adopted by Irene Sam Miller. This was in New York. And then we moved when I was 12 years old to Anchorage, Alaska. I was precocious as a child. I learned very quickly. I fell in love with reading at age 7. And I ended up being a National Merit Scholar. I was accepted to Harvard. I went to Dartmouth as my undergrad degree from Dartmouth College, Ivy League. In 1984, I tell everyone I graduated from Dartmouth with a degree in fraternity with a minor in drinking. So that was my degree and my minor. And I went into the corporate world, was sober for a couple of years, then relapsed. And it was a descent into 20 years of being homeless on the streets or incarcerated. I am a 3-time convicted felon, spent many years behind bars in prison, and ended up in 2007 being released for the 3rd time from prison with no marketable skills. And within 3-4 years, I was a development director, fundraiser, started my own company, my first company in 2014. And at this time, I own 5 companies. I have been very successful business-wise, and I also believe very successful in life. I'm an author. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a nationally known speaker. I am a fundraising expert. I am a property owner in countries. And I am most importantly, I'm a child of God. I am a husband. I am a grandfather. And as I would say, I'm an all-around nice guy. That's my synopsis to get us started.
And I get a sense when I talk to you too, Ken, is that when you talk about your successes, it's almost, people can talk about successes and they can brag about them. You talk about them almost as if I'm saying this so I can inspire other people because of where you came from and where you landed and where you're continuing to grow from. You say it as I want to inspire and empower other people that regardless of where they're from or what they're going through now, they can become successful, whatever that means to them in their life. Am I correct on that?
You are very correct, and that's I think a wonderful observation. Well, this is a couple things when you listen to me speak. Number one, I am not afraid of my success. It's not of ego and hubris that I share these things, but I want people to see, here I am, African-American male, 3-time ex-con, literally was homeless for 20 years. I was a panhandler on the corner. Okay, so we get that part. I've come back. I've been clean and sober now, coming up on 21 years. I have this wonderful life. But I'm also saying you too. I've had many impediments that could give me excuse to not have success, whatever way we define it. But I want to take away those excuses, give you an example. And many times when I speak, I give specific tactics to be successful in life, because I want individuals to have joy. I want them to have happiness. I want them to, get away from the power of the negative secrets, to get away from that sense of, resentment and or hatred toward either events or people in the past. So anyway, that's what I talk about. But that's the other thing I think is real important, at least for me it's been, is I'm not afraid to be well either. And what I mean by that, I'm not afraid to say that I'm well. I do life well, and I feel good, and I treat people with respect and honor in my daily walk. And that's my truth. And there's hundreds of people that could probably vouch for that.
Well, you when I talked to you last week, when I walked off that conversation, I thought right away, this is a man who wants to change the world. This is a man whose sole focus is the betterment. I think you used the word, I engender dreams. You really want to make a difference, whether it's through your mentoring, your coaching, your speaking, your writing, or in just overall the way you interact with other people in your personal and professional life. It seems to exude from you, like just this innate desire. And do you think that comes from the challenges you faced in your life?
The challenges were the antecedent to the direction and feeling that I have now. So one of my predominant feelings, the great majority of the time, is gratitude. I'm very, very grateful for the life that I live today. Now, there's a lot of work that went into having the environment that I've produced, whether it's my relationships, my wife, the kids, the house, the car, whatever. But that's an environment. But internal to me, there's a feeling, and that feeling is gratitude. And I always say to people, because people say, oh, I'm so grateful. And I'm like, well, how do you show that? How do you manifest that gratitude towards just your existence today, toward a God, toward choices that you've made, decisions? How do you show that gratitude? And one of the ways I show that gratitude is by helping others. That's number one. Number two, let me just I'll say this, is that there are things that are my strengths, my gifts, you may call them. And one of my gifts is the ability to mentor young men, predominantly of color, but the young men that I work with. And then I have a gift to speak from the stage. And I have a gift of articulating past experiences, feelings, events for a greater good, or to come to some type of a solution or answer to that experience or that problem that I faced, which are universal problems.
Can I ask you a question? This is really I didn't know the part about your biological parents. We didn't discuss that last week. So I have a question. So you went to Dartmouth. You had an offer you could go to Harvard. You have done what you've done with your life. So do you think I'm going to say natural intelligence, or your intelligence, because there's an intelligence to go to a Ivy League school, and there's an intelligence to start these businesses that you've started and succeeded with. Do you believe that's more nurture or nature, or a combination of the two?
Nature.
Okay.
100. Let me explain why I say that, because believe me, I've pondered this for many years.
I would imagine.
I got adopted at age 7. When I got adopted at age 7, I could not read. I could not write. I could not tell time. I could not even tie my shoes. Fact. At age 7. My mother, Irene Miller, this is my adoptive mother, sat me down that summer of 69 and with 3x5 phonetic cards taught me how to read. And I cried every day because I wanted to play. I don't want to sit and do TH, PH, because that's how I learned how to read. That was first grade. By second grade, I was reading at the 5th grade level. Okay. That's internal. So let me continue. I did the DNA in 16, found my birth mother, and I found my half sisters. We all have the same African-American father. My one sister is a retired professor, and my other sister is a retired English teacher. And then I was an English major at a college. We all, and what are the chances of 3 adopted foster children that were this successful as African Americans aged in the 50s and 60s? That's rare. So I'm a big one on. So first of all, you have the nature. I believe I was born with, just like I was born an alcoholic. Okay. I was born this way, but if the environment is not correct, if no one taught me how to read, I still wouldn't be able to read.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a combination, but the nature is, well, I was born with some of this innate intelligence or the ability to cognitively think like I think. But then again, I still got to get exposed to the media, the information to be able to have that intelligence to be able to answer, let's say, questions for ACT or SAT. So, which I did very well.
like your intelligence is natural; it's your foundation. But then you had your mother Irene, who actually was able to pull that out of you and turn it into a gift that you can give to the world.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, and then so I always say this: what if I had grown up in Bed-Stuy? What if I had grown up in South Bronx? Because remember, I was from New York. Those are, in the 70s were 2 really, really bad areas. You know, what if I had grown up at Calliope, apartments, or, just all these areas. And then I would have been a product of my environment. I am writing a book with a gentleman out of Los Angeles, and he grew up in Compton, and he has a doctorate today. And so we hit it off because, he's like, hey, I came from this environment, but I made some decisions and or choices to not be a victim of my environment. And I was like, man, I can, same with me. My environment, even though it was self-chosen self-chosen, was to be a drug addict and criminal on the streets for 20 years. That was, again, it's a decision, choice. I fell into it, whatever. I was an addict. But I made a decision to do the work and the discomfort of doing recovery because I had enough reasons to continue, believe me, down that road. But I didn't. So, again, so much of it is, I'm a big one on environment. We talked about that a little earlier.
Yeah.
I control my work environment. I'm looking around right now. I have exactly 1 pen in my office. 1. That's all I need to write with. I don't need anything extraneous. I have nothing. I have 1 pad. I have a Docket Gold writing pad, 1 pen, and my computer and a cup of coffee on my desk. That is it. Okay? because that's the way I work without distractions so that I can focus and be able to do the things that I do, which is a lot of things.
Well, we talked prior to recording that we're both minimalist. We both like order and structure and our physical environment. You definitely took that to the next level. Because I look at my office space and my desk and I think that's pretty minimalistic, but there's definitely more than a pen, a computer, and a pad of paper in it. So maybe I need to shed a few more things on my desk. Because you are right. When I talk to my clients, Ken, about doing 90-30 training on their brain, work for 90 minutes on a subject, give yourself 30-minute breaks, do the brain rhythms, I always tell them, don't have anything on your desk other than what you're currently working on. And it does help a great deal, regardless of your personality style. It does help to clarify and simplify. And you just do it at a higher level than I do, apparently, because I'm looking around. Well, usually during the day, I have a side desk. That one gets pretty messy. I'm putting files on there and grabbing other files, but I need to do a better job of keeping my primary desk just kind of a little more zen, a little more simple.
Yeah, but you can. Because I just let me go here. You can, but again, we talked about this also. Different people work differently.
They do.
And what I can do is I can show you, teach you, what has worked for me, because it literally is what has worked for me. And I had to do something that was going to be effective because I had lost so many decades.
Yeah.
I want to retire. I'm 62. I could retire today. I'm not. But I had to make up in 10 years losing 30, from when I got out of college until, I started my business in 14. So that was, 30 years, 20 of it I spent on the streets or, incarcerated, like we spoke before. So anyway, I needed to make up. Yeah. And I had made up. And so to do that, I knew I had to be efficient. But efficiency alone is not the answer. I tell people this all the time. It has to be efficiency in pursuit of effectiveness, because that's what you really want, is to be effective, not efficient. Okay? That's just a tool to be effective. And so for me, I can be efficient because the key component I tell people is we only have so much capacity. And capacity in the business world consists of only two things: time and money. Time and money. Okay? Because they're finite. There's a finite amount of time before your bills are due for your company or corporation or family. There's only so much money that we have to work with. Okay? At least most of us. So because I'm limited in those, how can I be more efficient in the use of those finite items? And so I became more efficient so that I have 5 income streams, but I have to run each of them. Even though I have help, I have a whole company that does virtual assistants. I mean, I have one. It's a company, Evolution. There are virtual assistants in Ecuador and the Philippines. It's my company. And of course, I use some of my people, but I have them for clients too. But they're all trained in AI. And again, what is AI? AI is a way to be much more efficient, again, to be effective. And that's what I use AI for, to be more effective. That's what I use the virtual assistants for, to be more effective by being more efficient, because then I can download or assign tasks to them. They're just staff members. I pay them. They're on payroll. But the thing is, because they're offshore, they're a lot less expensive. They're $7 an hour instead of 25, 30 I would have for an assistant in the United States. They're college educated. They speak English. And my ones that work for me work nights because they're working my hours. They're working right now as we speak. So again, that's the business world. Same thing we can say about the world of the family world or the world of life.
Which reminds me, I was listening to your book. So everybody, I'm going to include a link to Ken's book, Becoming Ken, 4.9 stars on Amazon rated. I was listening to the audio version of your book, and it's a virtual author. And I couldn't believe how accurate that virtual author, the narration was.
Yeah.
I mean, had I not known, I would have not picked up on it. But obviously I always like to see who the narrator is and who this, and I was completely surprised by how effective that was. Like, it would have gotten me completely convinced. When you listen to it, you forget right away. Within a few minutes, you're like, okay, you're just listening to the author speak. Now, it is different than your voice, but it's still, you wouldn't know that.
Well, I chose that voice.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I chose that voice. So there's two parts. There's one part I read. I think I do the preface or the foreword. It's in my voice. And so we use, remember, I'm really big into AI.
Yeah.
So we use a company called 11 Labs. And with 11 Labs, it's probably the best AI audio platform. But what you can do is you can choose the voice. If I wanted to go, Oxbridge, which is Oxford, Cambridge voice, British voice, I could have done that. I could have done New York. And you have like 1,000 different voices you can choose for, 10,000 different voices you can choose for. And I took a little time because at one point I was going to read it. But again, capacity.
Yeah.
That's not the capacity.
So that's a big endeavor.
You can take your book and for, let's say, $200, pick a voice, and then it will, and you can do that. You can update the speed. You can go back through it if you want to put more emphasis, or the voice you've chosen, do more emphasis in this paragraph, or whenever it comes to this word, do more emphasis. You can choose all that. And so for $200, you can create an audio book of your book.
And when you have a 300-page book, the time frame, the time commitment to read that book would be, yeah. I kind of want to go off track a little bit because a lot of the stuff I've read on you and listened to you on other podcasts, you talk a lot about self-forgiveness.
Yes.
Can you go on that and how you've used because I know a lot of people out there right now, Ken, including myself at times, I can be hard on myself. I can look at my past mistakes or current mistakes, and I know a lot of people struggle with that. Like, we can forgive other people, but sometimes we have a difficult time forgiving ourselves. How did you do that? And what did you learn in the process that you can share with us?
Well, there's two components. There's forgiveness of others and there's forgiveness of self. It really is three. Let's break it down. When you are in communication, you're always in communication with three entities: external, internal, and spiritual. Okay? So when we pray, when we meditate, that's a communication with God or whatever spiritual entity as you define it. Okay, that's one. When I'm talking to you, I'm communicating externally. And then at all times, even on this conversation, I have self-talk going.
Yeah.
Self-talk. Okay? And a lot of times when I'm working with men, I always ask them, what is taking precedence at this time? Usually it's self-talk takes precedence. And I said, one of the ways I can identify your self-talk is how you take a compliment. I can learn more about you by how you take a compliment versus how you take a criticism. And he was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I said, if there's no congruence by an external affirmation of your worth, because internally you say, no, I'm not, I'm an imposter. No, I'm not worth that. No, I'm not lovable. No, I'm not competent. And that's the self-talk. And that'll win every time. Okay? If there isn't. All right. So when it comes to forgiveness, again, we're three different entities that we need to forgive to be healthy. That's probably the best word. Healthy. To be sane. A lot of people don't know what that word means, sanity. I'm not trying to go off here, but this is how I talk. This is how I work with men when I work with them. Sanity comes from a Latin word, sanus, which is health. So when you're insane, it means not healthy of mind. It's like a sanitarium. Ever heard of that word?
Yeah.
Same root word. So what we're trying to do is come back to health. And I'm talking about mental health and emotional health to become sane again. Okay? So we look at the forgiveness. And the forgiveness is, a lot of that is just to be able to accept a truth. That's what a lot of forgiveness is about, accepting truth. The truth is that I did X, Y, Z. The truth is you did X, Y, Z. So one of the things in the book that you probably, if you've gone into, one of the most pivotal moments of my life was when my father shot my mom 6 times. Shot her. Okay? And while he was shooting her, he told that he was going to shoot me, come to my job and shoot me, because he shot her job. Hit her 5 times. But the gun jammed, so he never had a chance or an opportunity to shoot me. Okay? How do we forgive that? And what I had to do was, because it was killing me, okay, and it gave me a very good excuse or rationalization to go into my addiction and alcoholism. What I had to do is confront the truth of the situation and confront the truth of my father's insanity at that time. And literally, and I'm not going to go into all the details of it, I did. I accepted that's where he was. My father was hurting for many reasons. And I'm talking about hurting emotionally for many reasons. And he had a hatred toward me for many reasons. And once I looked at his life, growing up in the 30s, going off to World War II as a black man, growing up poor as a black man, coming out of World War II, fought in Italy, North Africa, Fifth Army, and what he had to deal with, and not having the education, and then having to deal with the situation of being married to a beautiful black woman who was highly educated, and here he wasn't, okay? She made more money than him. That's a big no-no within that era of being married with a black man, okay? So he had his justification, rationalization, but in the end, he was just in a lot of pain, and that's how he took out his pain. But anyway, I accepted that. Had I ever forgotten it? No. I could talk about it in the book, but I harbored no anger or resentment toward him. I don't. I sat down with him years later, and we talked about it. And I let go the emotion connected with it. Okay, so that's an external. Then you go to the second one. Let's just talk about God. A lot of people won't forgive God because they believe that God or their spiritual entity is the one that has put them into this discomfort or pain from past events, which is, it's not of God. It is of circumstances, and it's of a fact and truth that this pain or discomfort happened to you. And to blame God, because what it does, when you start blaming God, you become a victim, and you also take away all agency. That I had a part in this. I'm the one who married her, or put myself in this motel room where the guy is going to shoot me because, I took two rocks of crack cocaine from him. That was me. I had agency. That wasn't God. That wasn't. But it is a truth. So there's a forgiveness and allowance of God's truth that this is what happened. Let's move on. And there's a forgiveness there. And then the forgiveness of self. And the forgiveness of self, again, all of them are important. I don't know what, where you are on each scale of those 3 forgivenesses. So, but if you do 2 of them and don't do one of them, you still have a lot of resentment and a lot of ill health or not being healthy. So the forgiveness of self very simply came down to, again, let's look at all the situations and circumstances around the behavior, the actions, and understand that I was a sick child of God. and that I was a sick individual. I'm talking about sick mentally,
Right.
and how I looked at the world and how I dealt with the world. And because of that, I hurt people. That's the key thing. And this is real important. I say this. I was not as concerned about forgiving myself, even though it was important, as I was about forgiving others. See, that for me, on a scale of 1 to 10, I had to forgive my father and others. That was like at a 9. My self-forgiveness maybe was at a 6 or 7. And then I'd never had a real strong spiritual, so I wasn't really mad at God because I didn't believe in God. I was an atheist. Right. So that wasn't too tough. Okay, so I was like at 1 there. So everybody's on that continuum or scale, let's say of 1 through 10. But I've done them all. I've forgiven myself. And I did some bad things out there, bro. But I've forgiven myself. I understand I was a sick young man. And I'm not even going to say it was the best I could do. It's what I did. It's just what I did. And I had to do it just so I could look in the mirror, and not hate the individual that I saw. Because I went through years of doing that, just looking in a mirror and hating me.
So, okay, that one hit home for me. The whole 3 areas are, I guess, the 3 different entities for forgiveness. Because I think, I had some stuff that happened to me when I was a very young boy that I had to forgive my paternal grandfather for over the years, and it took time. But I've forgiven. I'm pretty good at forgiving others out externally. I am. Forgiving God was probably the second most difficult one I've had, and I feel I've done that. I feel I have a very strong, open, very transparent relationship with God. He's with me every day. I speak like He's my best friend. He's my mentor, looking over my shoulder. I have a very difficult time forgiving myself, and I'm going to be very transparent. The last 4 or 5 days have been, even up, including in this morning, that I was struggling with thinking about past mistakes, past errors, beating myself up, which this is a rarity for me. It doesn't happen very often, but I found myself in the last probably 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, today's Tuesday, 3.5 days of kind of going in this darker space in my head where I feel lethargic physically. I feel emotionally spent, mentally spent. And it all comes down to my mind has been floating in the last few days about past mistakes that have now not really reared their ugly head, but it's like cause and effect. You see things you did when you were younger and you see where that's put you today. And these things aren't major. I didn't kill anybody. I didn't, rape anybody. I didn't do anything like that. It was just more past mistakes that for some reason, Ken, I don't know why. I think part of it is, and I've tried to dissect this through my journaling the last few days, is my life has taken a whole new step up professionally and personally, and it's got me to a level of discomfort. To be happy, to be more fulfilled, to be seeing this beautiful light that's in front of me that I'm going toward, both personally and professionally, that's put me in a state of vulnerability, so with that vulnerability comes all these past mistakes and errors and things that I've done that I don't like or question. So I think there's a correlation there or causation between things going very well and old patterns or old thoughts, old feelings are kind of rearing their ugly head again. So that one hit hard for me. So I never thought about the self-forgiveness as much as I've thought about forgiveness as an external affair. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
That's an interesting concept. I like that a lot. I like the term accepting the truth. One of the things I do with my coaching clients is I have them put down I call it the CIA method. Whatever they're going through, list the things you can control, list the things you can only influence, and list the things you have to merely accept. And what you were talking about, accepting a truth, is that exactly what is the truth about the matter? What is the fact? As you started off our conversation today, let's start with the facts and we'll go from there. Mm-hmm. And when you can do that, you can kind of almost eliminate those things and say, okay, I have to accept them. So I can't put those in my wheel well. I don't have the headspace for that. To work on those, I'm going to work on the things I can control, and therefore it's going to increase what I can influence in other people's lives. So I like that. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Let me just say something real quick on that. One of the things that that I teach a workshop on self-esteem. I'm a true big believer in self-esteem and understanding what that is. Just did a 4-month book study on the 6 pillars of self-esteem. I have been mentoring men for 15 years. And every man that I work with, we always start off with 2 books. That's how important I believe it is. And those are the 6 pillars of self-esteem by Nathaniel Branden.
Yeah.
And The Speed of Trust by Covey. Okay, yep. Stephen Covey. Those are the 2 books. Every guy. And then as we get to know each other more, I'll recommend other podcasts or other books, maybe other books to work on. But there's 2 things I want to say on this. Number one, being depressed or down, I've so readily accepted. So what I found out was this, and this was a revelation for me. I would be depressed, and I would spend most of the day trying to find out, why am I depressed? Why am I feeling depressed? It's a feeling. And I'd be looking at past, present, future. Why am I depressed? And what I came to realize about 10 years ago is I just get depressed every once in a while. I think it's something in the brain.
Yeah.
And instead of beating myself up or trying, because I wasn't depressed the day before. And so I had the same situations. I had very few problems in life. But I had the same situation, same house, same wife, same dog, everything. And what I do is I give myself the allowance of being depressed up to 2 days. Okay. And it's 99% of the time, it lasts 1 day, maybe 2. And I know what I usually do, my cure is a pint of Haagen-Dazs butter pecan ice cream. And I get in bed and I'll, read or watch some TV and eat my Haagen-Dazs. Not the whole pint, sometimes. But I don't beat myself up because I'm depressed. I used to get mad I was depressed. Or get upset because I'm down and I'm like, why am I down? And I still got to work. I don't have to work. I could take off a week, a month, and I would be fine. But I don't because I have clients. But again, what I realize is that it's probably organic. Well, not probably, it is organic. Because the next day I wake up, I'm fine. Right. And so, again, this is the thing I'm in the anonymous programs, and people will understand what I mean by that. I'm in the anonymous programs. And in there, and I think sometimes people may not appreciate this, but I say in the meeting, it's all right to be well. You don't always have to have a problem. As I sit here today, I have no problems. Talking to you, I have no problems. Now, I can look hard and find something, but I have no problems. Literally. I mean, no major, let alone medium-sized problems. And I don't think I have too many minor problems. And it's all right, but it's all right to be well, because the thing about that is it allows me the space to work with others. If I'm constantly working on myself, I can't work with others and be there and be available to help them grow or overcome or to bounce back from a setback. That's the beautiful thing about it. So for about a year now, probably about 4 or 5 years, I've been well, literally well, and I do life and I give out now because I'm not always working on myself. I tell people there's very little I'm working on about Ken, very little. Because I'm comfortable where he is. I'll say one more last thing. There was a whole series, Good to Great, okay? Yeah. Series of books. I care not to be great. Let me say that again. I care not to be great. I just want to be good. And you're like, why is that, Ken? Because there's a gentleman that I read about physical. And he said, he said, I can get you to 95% of your potential in strength training within, let's say, a year. I'm just giving an example here. That last 5% or last 3% would probably take 20 years. To get to the Olympic level or the professional level, you don't have the capacity to be great. I will never be a great NBA basketball player. Period. I know that as a fact. And I don't seek greatness. I seek to be good so that I can provide for my family and be able to give out. And then I'll take that capacity instead of trying to get to that last 3% or 5% and give it out and give it away. And that's what I do today. I am very good at a few different things, but I'm not great, nor do I choose to work to be great at anything.
That's a really interesting take that I've never heard before, or at least heard articulated
to me. Yeah, I thought about this for a few years, and I may write a book about it. I got 3 more books in the hopper this year, so I'm writing a fantastic book with a gentleman named Dr. Will Moreland on respect and disrespect. It's going to be fantastic.
Ooh.
I'm also writing a book on fundraising called Practical Fundraising or Guerrilla Fundraising. I'm not sure exactly. And then I'm going to write a book on mentorship. I've been doing that for 15 years. I teach it across the country. Those are my next 3 books. I hope to have all of them out by the end of this year on top of becoming Ken. Again, the first one took 3 years, but now I can write a book in 3 months.
You got the system down?
Close.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Not great
at the system.
That's a really interesting take on that. I want to noodle that around a little bit more. I'm looking forward to your next book. I really am. That disrespect. I don't, obviously just knowing what the title is, the fundraising book, I don't do a lot of fundraising, but I know a lot of people who do. That second one, that next one sounds very interesting to me.
Yeah, it's going to be. Hey, I have to go to another meeting here at the top of the hour. My apologies on that.
No, you're fine. Let me ask one last question.
Sure.
If I could take you back in a time machine to when you were younger, what advice would you give yourself? Younger self. You pick an age.
Yeah. Pick an age. I'm just going to take one. I'll take an age of 18. My freshman year in college was really tough. And I would just say, hey, you're going to get through it and let go of the fear. I was fear-based. Let go of the fear of my father, but I was fear-based. And also there was a lot of fear about who I was and my walk. And I would tell them, hey, it's going to be all right. You're going to turn out all right. So just hang in there. I would love to see myself as a 6-year-old too, before I got adopted. And I had no pictures before I was 7 years old. Zero pictures. Because of the foster homes in that situation. I have no pictures of me. I would love to see pictures of me as a baby or as a toddler.
Well, let's do this. I know you got to go. Let's get you back on the show soon, okay? We have a lot more to explore with you, brother. Ken, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being on here. Ladies and gentlemen, the transformative Ken Miller. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, friend. Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. I know that was a little shorter. We had limited time today. But thank you again for tuning in this week. Please smash that like button. Please look us up on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to us, and please rate and review us. And we'd love to hear more heart letters come in. We've been getting so many emails over the last probably 6 weeks, and I got an email or a text 2 days ago asking why we're not sharing some of the heart letters that are coming in. We'll get back to doing that soon, so you can hear what other subscribers and listeners are getting from the show and from the guests that I bring on. But anyway, thank you so much. I'll see you next week, same time, same place. In the meantime, please get out there and strive to give and be your best. Show the ultimate love and respect to others and back to yourself. And please get out there and live with intention. Thank you all. I appreciate you, each and every single one of you.